Hi guys! Today we'll talk about spider mites. Why not, right? It affected so many of us, especially if you have collection of plants. In my case here, and I think most of you on this channel, if you have a collection of orchids, that's something that we deal with. And sometimes it's a little bit hard. It takes a while for us to discover what's going on with our plants. So I thought that maybe this video could help some of you, especially if you're a beginner or if you don't have much experience with pests. I will talk to you about what are spider mites, how they affect our orchids. I'll show you some signs and how I'm treating my collection. If that's the type of content you'd like to see here, stay in this video and let's start. Just to give you a heads up, I'm not going to be here standing and talking to you. I will put my plants on the table and show you signs and explain to you what I'm seeing, how I'm seeing. I think it's going to be easier. And also, I hurt my neck, so I'm not going to be able to move much. So better to move the camera then. Let's start. So why I have this plant here in front of us? Just to tell you that infestation of spider mite can quickly destroy your plant. This is my white and Ruby Nobly hybrid, and it was recovering. I had this cake here that was growing, and everything was supposed to be fine. However, because I didn't notice that the spider mites were attacking it non-stop, when I discovered that this week, I looked at the plant, and the health of this plant has declined immensely. Lots of leaves were yellowing and dying. I noticed that it was dehydrated, the leaves were limpy, but that happened because of the pest infestation. So spider mite infestation can severely decrease the health of your plant. That's why it's really important that we take good care of our plants, because our orchids, if they are healthier, they will have a better chance to survive these infestations. So what are spider mites? There are different types of spider mites. I don't know exactly the type that is affecting my plants, even if it's more than one type of spider mite. They are arachnids, so it's the same family. They sit together with spiders, but they are tiny, tiny insects. They are like maybe 1 millimeter long in size. They are very, very tiny. I only found them on my plants, not only because I spotted how they were damaging these orchids, but also because I put the zoom of my phone in the maximum and I could see some tiny, tiny white dots moving around. These were the spider mites. So how they survive? They will feed on the sap of plants, especially in this case we're talking about orchids, but not only they will suck the sap and chlorophyll, and that's how they would damage the leaves and also flowers. Something very important as well is some species of spider mites, they will thrive in warm and dry environments. So that's why some orchid collectors and plant collectors, they tend to increase the humidity around, or even like properly water your plant, if you can, if it's hot in your area, because dry environments will make spider mites multiply easier than in a humid environment. One way for you to not exterminate them, but have a little bit less spider mites in your leaves, is just if you shower your leaves properly, then definitely some of these pests, some of these tiny insects will be gone. But more than that, we have to do more than just showering our plants. But just to let you know, it's winter, it's pretty dry, or now that's pretty dry, not raining enough for some reason, there is a greater chance that if you have spider mites in your collection, they will thrive better in these environments and they will multiply. Something else, they will multiply like nothing very quickly. They will form the tiny family of spider mites, and they will start colonizing one plant after another. And when in 1 week maybe, there was nothing, and 1 week after, you're going to see lots of leaves full of spots and marks. So let's talk about common signs of spider mites in your collection, and that's why I brought this plant here specifically. So the mites, they will suck, they will puncture plant cells to feed. and they will leave behind a small discolored spots. So if you look into these leaves, you will see lots of discolored spots here. Some type of spider mites, they can leave thin webs behind. I've never seen the webs in my plant, but also you will notice that some leaves can become yellow like this one and completely speckled. So one way of you to notice if we have spider mites, not only, as I said, the health of your plant will decrease, you can have stunted growth, reduce the flower production. They will also be able to transmit disease from one orchid to another, which is another issue. But one simple way for you to detect a spider mite is to grab a tissue. If you have a white tissue and it has to be wet, I don't know, I sprayed this plant last week, but even so, I don't think I managed to get rid of everything. But usually you will just grab the damp tissue and you go to the surface of the leaf, and we'll do that. So what we have, I still have a little bit, I do have some spider mite here, I'll show you. So what do you notice on your tissue is, let me put you on focus, it will leave some brown spots and brown marks behind. Also, we can use a paper, place it behind, and when you move your plant, the paper will have some brown dots on it. That's a clear sign of spider mite. Other signs, as I said, I will show you a ton of examples while I'm talking here, is all of these grazing. Usually you have lots of like gray grazing behind the leaves. It's some tiny dots. Something else, some other types of spider mites will also leave like this kind of red grazing behind, and you know that it's very different from thrips. I have another video of thrips, I'll link it down below. Thrips, not only you will find some dark spots, but also thrips are a little bit larger than spider mites. The way that they multiply and attack your plant is a little bit different as well. Something else that I notice with spider mites, especially in my experience here, is that spider mites love young plants with very thin leaves, but they have a specific taste. Funnily enough, Thrips loves all of my dendrobiums, but I noticed that spider mites prefer the nobilis than the dendrobium phalaenopsis. The nobilis were the first ones to get completely destroyed, and Oncidias intergeneric, because Oncidians in general, they love my Oncidians, and it's so difficult to treat Oncidians. If you have Oncidians, you probably know they produce a ton of large leaves with pseudobulbs, and you need to go and spray all of the leaves. So it's a hard work, but they love my Oncidians. That's why there is one Oncidian that I have. I don't know if it's related to the Nellieimer somehow, because there are Oncidians that are prone to have more pests. This one, if I want to know if I have spider mite, I just need to look at this one, because it's one of spider mite's favorite salad, I think. And it is in my bath at the moment with other plants because they were severely affected. And I noticed and I decided to spray everybody that was around that Oncidian. And also I had to spray all of these beauties here because they were all affected. So Dendrobium nobilis and Oncidians, in my opinion, were like the top dish on my spider mite infestation. I have here my Brassia, and again, it is displaying signs of spider mite infestation as well. So now let's talk about how can we treat these plants. So you can combine different treatments. I've tried different things, and I'm going to tell you what I've tried and what I'm doing at the moment. So as I said, you can do physical treatment that can shower your plant. You can also add some insect tapes. It's not tape. What's the name of that? Oh my gosh. Like mosquito traps, the one that you place out near your plant. We also can do some biological and chemical methods. So let's talk about all the treatments that we have for Spider Mite. I'll start with the one that I used last week. That was neem oil. So neem oil is natural organic treatment option that's really effective against spider mites according to the web. What will happen is it will disrupt the mites' reproductive cycle because they will not be able to feed. The oil will create a here is like a barrier will cover the leaves, so they will not be able to suck the sap anymore. So when you create this physical barrier, you are making sure these plants are not being able to suck your plant and keep surviving, like feeding themselves. So what I did, I have neem oil I bought on Amazon. I just diluted it as it was on the label. It was telling me to use, I think it was 15 ml per liter of water, and I sprayed all of my plants. I'm showing here my plants in my bathroom. So these ones were all sprayed here, and I sprayed a ton of others as well. I didn't finish with the whole collection, but part of the collection, the ones that were more affected, I sprayed. So that was the last thing that I tried. But before that, I did try chemical pesticides. Last time that I sprayed my whole collection, I used chemical pesticides. What I noticed is it decreased the amount of spider mites that I had. I noticed that I started having more blooms. The plants were healthier. However, I believe there was some left, and these ones were the ones that simply started multiplying, like in my Dendrobium nobilis, and I didn't know it some time, and when I perceived, they were red full of spider mites. And I don't know if chemical pesticides, apparently some spider mites can get used to the pesticide, and then it will not be effective. So you have to do your research, just to let you know. It helped me to decrease the infestations, but it didn't eliminate everyone. And also with neem oil, you have to reapply and you have to be careful and constant with the treatment. And then there is another option, that's biological control. I have never done biological control. So if you have done, let me know. There are some natural predators that can keep spider mite population in check. Apparently ladybugs are one of them. I brought ladybugs inside before for this reason, but it was just one that was outside and probably flew away. So it was just one. I don't think it made a huge difference. But there are some things that you can use to actually keep the biological control. I have no experience with it, so I cannot tell you more about it. What I can tell you for sure is that you have to regularly inspect your plant. As I said, maybe 2 weeks that I didn't inspect some of these plants was enough for these pests to multiply like nothing. And when I noticed, they have destroyed part of my nobilis. They have destroyed also, Zygopetalum is very sensitive to spider mites as well. So if you constantly look to the leaves, check for signs. When you notice that you have a tiny infestation, it's time for you to treat everything. And try to keep the humidity. I mean, it's quite hard inside our homes, but at least water your plants in time. And when you notice, if you have a small collection, you have one plant that is infested, isolate that plant, create like a quarantine routine for that until you are completely sure that the pest has been completely eliminated before you bring this plant in again, because insects, they can fly and or move from leaf to leaf, and before you notice, they have colonized everything. And just to conclude this video, I hope it was useful. White spider mites can pose a serious threat to the health of our orchids, so if you regularly inspect your plants using a combination of natural oils, maybe chemical pesticides, and other types of physical control, you may be able to effectively manage the infestation. And also moving forward, I would recommend you to prevent your plants, your orchids, to be infested. Some people like to spray them maybe twice a year, especially the whole collection, to be able to keep the risk of a serious infestation to a minimum, and we can minimize the risks of pests killing these plants, and we might have beautiful orchids in the future after a retreat, or if we keep them in check, they'll keep blooming for us. I know that's a bit of a struggle, but it's possible to keep spider mites in their place without affecting our whole collection. And that was my intention to create this video, was to talk a little bit about my own experience. I still have some spider mites. I treated them last week. I have to spray more plants. I will finish that this summer so I can have healthier orchids during autumn and winter, and hopefully pest-free, or have a collection with a minimum number of insects on it would be ideal. That was everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, subscribe to my channel. It helps me a lot, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.